Hello and welcome back to the Aqua Pod for a really interesting episode and conversation. This week I was joined by head coach of Warrender Baths Club, Laurel and also Anthony Ryan, who is the current head coach of Dumfries. I was also joined as a co-host this week by Kerry Wood, who is the swimming pathway coach at Scottish Swimming. Firstly, how are you doing, Kerry, and how did you kind of find that conversation there? Definitely some interesting bits, wasn't there?
Yeah, great, thanks. It was a really interesting conversation with Laurel and Anthony. They had some great insight, great tips, and some honest thoughts about themselves as coaches and how they manage themselves at a meet like SNAGS.
Yeah, definitely some interesting stuff there about sort of coaching welfare, managing themselves and other coaches, and of course their swimmers as well, and also kind of performance focused aims for SNAGS and the sort of full year of swimming as well. So hopefully it's enjoyable as a listen, and yeah, thanks for listening. Thank you very much, Laurel and Anthony, for joining us. How are you both getting on, guys?
Yeah, good, thanks. Just obviously getting things organised ahead of SNAGS this weekend. Just getting all the last minute things put together.
Yeah, and yourself, Anthony, as well. How's it going?
Yeah, really good, thank you. Much the same as Laurel, really. Just final preparations ahead of the weekend and next week, or next couple of weeks, I guess.
And I guess how are things in this period? It's obviously a lot of the hard work's been done, hasn't it? At this stage, it's now just about refining it and making sure everyone's in the right shape and the right headspace. How are the kind of last few days before such a big competition like the Scottish National Age Group Championships?
Yeah, we're all right. I think the kids seem relaxed. We did a little bit of our kind of power work last week, and they get excited for that because it's a little bit harder. And then this week, I think most of them will just rest a little bit, and they're pretty good. They stay switched on. They know that when they're at home, like, they don't need to be doing anything too crazy, so they can just lounge about a little bit. But no, all things seem pretty good right now.
Yeah, it's always good to get an excuse to have a bit of a chill out, isn't it? Especially in the world of swimming where you're so busy quite a lot of the time. What about yourself, Laurel? How's things at Warrender at the minute?
Yeah, good. Some of our kids are crazy already. We keep saying to them, like, guys, you've got another week. On Friday, some of the performance squad boys in particular, like, guys, you need to calm down. You've still got another week. Like, just chill out a little bit. So, no, they're pretty excited. It's slightly different this year because this is the first time in a while that we've started on a Saturday, whereas normally the competition starts on a Wednesday. So I guess we've just had to kind of plan that in a little bit as well and see them through that last couple of days when they actually just want to start racing. So, yeah, no, it's good energy, and everyone's feeling pretty excited, I think.
Awesome. I think we'll get into SNAGS a little bit more later on in the podcast, but thought since we've got you both on, it'd be a good opportunity just to hear a little bit from you guys and a little bit about your backgrounds into the sport and into your current positions. So maybe start with Anthony. I know you obviously swam and I've got a great affinity with Dumfries and the swimming club. And you're now the head coach as well. Do you want to just talk a little bit about your journey into that and kind of what your role is at the moment?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I'm quite a loyal person to Dumfries. So that's something I actually didn't think of much until a coaches symposium last year, and someone said about loyalty, and I was like, oh yeah, that actually is me. But just briefly on me, I was born in Norwich in England, and then kind of travelled around England a little bit. And then grew up in a place called Crewe, which is just south of Manchester. That's where I learned to swim, and I went through the club there. And then we moved to Annan just because my dad getting a new job up north. I swam in Carlisle just for a little bit before switching to Dumfries, and that kind of happened at the same time as Ben Higson took over at Dumfries. So swam under him until he pretty much left, and now I finished swimming at pretty much the same time. And then Danielle Brayson took over, and I think about 3 weeks out of the water, and Danielle was like, right, come on, what do you want to do? What are you going to do with yourself? And I just started a coaching course at the college, so it was quite timely, and she gave me a chance on poolside, so I was her assistant for a while and learned a lot, incredible amount. And then only 3 years later, I became head coach, and funny. I look back on it now. I was very naive. It was maybe even too soon, but I seem to have learned plenty over the last kind of 7, 8 years, and I feel like I'm in a pretty good place now. So that's been good. It's been an amazing journey. We've had some challenges as well along the way. We had a temporary pool to swim out of for a while, but no, it's been really good.
You mentioned it a little bit there, but how good is it to sort of learn off some, amazing coaches there? You mentioned Ben Hickson and Daniel Brayson, obviously really, really experienced, and I've done some great things in the sport. How valuable are those kind of experiences and being able to learn off people like that?
Yeah, incredible. And they're two very different personalities, right? And they work together and they worked really well together. And I think Ben kind of gave me my love for coaching, because watching him coach, I was like, oh, that really is something that I'd quite like to do. So that was kind of where it first started. And then I kind of learned a lot off Danielle and like the serious side of it. I think maybe I went into coaching thinking like it's just this fun, energetic thing that you can do. And then I learned it's a lot harder than that. And it's difficult at times, but I learned incredible amount off both, one as a swimmer and one as a coach, and I still keep in contact with both now. So they've been amazing role models, especially to myself.
And Laurel, I believe you've been head coach now for over 15 years. I think that I'm right in saying that. So again, we talk about loyalty. You've been pretty loyal to Warrender as well. And I've also experienced World Championships, Commonwealth Games, and Olympic Games within your role as a coach. So I don't know if you want to speak a little bit about that and kind of your journey to where you are now.
I think this is my 16th. Well, there was no SNAGS during COVID, but it's my 16th year as head coach. So, however many SNAGS that is, I guess 15.
Yeah.
We only missed one, I think, did we? I can't even remember. But anyway, so I basically, I'm Australian and grew up swimming in Australia. And when I finished school, I was coaching just to basically fund my way through university, and did the typical Australian thing at the age of 21, decided to take a gap year and travel in Europe, and have been living in Scotland pretty much ever since. So since 2004, September 2004. I started coaching at Warrender when I got to Edinburgh, and obviously coached in various roles in the club until I became the head coach in January 2009, and had a lot to do with British swimming and being on teams, as you said, Olympics, World Championships, Commonwealth Games, up to 2016. And then after Rio, we kind of, as a club, looked at what we needed to do to make the club better, and really how to take forward, the processes at the club to help the kids. And at that point, my role evolved into the role that is now, which is overseeing the whole club and really, mentoring and developing the coaches at all levels within the club. So that if we can raise the standards at every stage through the club, then the club obviously is going to be better as a whole. So I've been doing that since 2016. That's great as well. And it, gives me opportunity on a daily and weekly basis to work with kids at every level of the club. And we've got a team of 10 coaches. So, working, developing, mentoring them, helping them to progress themselves within the sport as well, which is great.
And have you kind of enjoyed the way that role has evolved then, given you sort of an opportunity to be a bit more of a leader to other coaches as opposed to just, or not just, but, coaching swimmers? Yeah,
I really enjoy it. And each of the coaches within the team, needs something different depending on where they're at in their own coaching journey. Our performance squad coach, Bruce, he's very experienced. He's got great knowledge as a coach. So the areas that he needs, developing and mentoring are very different to a coach who is just getting started, who's just maybe done their coaching course and is starting coaching for the very first time. So And it changes, as the coaches transition in and out of the club, and we get new coaches, it changes every year. So it's, constantly evolving and changing, and it gives me continuing challenges, which are really enjoyable. So
sort of looking ahead then to SNAGS, which is the target for so many clubs and so many swimmers in Scotland. It really is the big one. How do you kind of approach managing your workload round about that time? And, big competitions can be difficult from loads of different perspectives, physically, mentally demanding. And you're both from such kind of different programs as well, Dumfries being a smaller program to Warrender. How do you kind of, at this point, look ahead and think, how are we going to go into that and make sure that processes are in place for things to go well?
So I guess there's a couple of different aspects for me in terms of my workload as a head coach. So obviously, while we are in Aberdeen, we've still got 200 kids back here training. Oh well, a lot of them will be on Easter break, so it is quieter. So a lot of managing that workload is done in advance. So really trying to be organised in advance to get tasks done, so that I can go to Aberdeen knowing that things are pretty quiet in Edinburgh. I've got a club administrator who basically will pick up any critical issues in Edinburgh while I'm away in Aberdeen, so that I can, put my out of office on and really focus on the team in Aberdeen. But, we've been doing a lot of work over the last few weeks, not just in preparing for SNAGS, but in making sure all the other aspects of the club are organised and able to get on with things. So, Easter schedules, reports for swimmers, entries for upcoming meets, promotions that happen at Easter, all of that gets done and dusted and is pretty much done now, so that the coast is clear for me to focus on the team in Aberdeen. So that's kind of the workload away from SNAGS, and then the workload at SNAGS is obviously entirely different because it's 5 days, 5 10-hour days basically at the pool. And I'm very lucky. I've got a team that I'll have 5 coaches with me in Aberdeen. So again, my role during SNAGS is to manage them and to manage how they look after themselves and what's going on with their swimmers. They each have a group of swimmers that they coach and will work with at SNAGS. Some of them have only got swimmers in the morning session and they can have a break in the afternoon. Some of them only have swimmers in the afternoon session and they can have a break in the morning. But we have a couple of coaches that have swimmers in the morning and the afternoon. So, I just need to manage their energy, make sure they get breaks, make sure they get outside and have some fresh air so that they can maintain their positivity on poolside. And then, I oversee that, and I'm kind of like the conductor of an orchestra, making sure that everyone is doing what they're supposed to be doing at the right time. No swimmers are missing races, telling coaches to, go to the swim down pool or do this or do that, and just kind of supporting that team dynamic. So, yeah.
I guess in a way you're lucky to have such a group around you, but in some ways it must be quite challenging as well when there's so many moving parts, and ultimately you're responsible for that as well, Laurel.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what I love, is kind of working out how all those moving parts operate together. And, we do a huge amount of work right the way through the season, right from the start of August, where we're getting together as a coaching team, doing team building activities, going out for meals, working together. At East Districts, we usually have 90 to 100 swimmers racing at East Districts, so we're used to it. So by the time we go to SNAGS, we're kind of a well-oiled team.
Yep.
And we respect each other enough to know that we can have difficult conversations. Might be, our relay teams, for example, we have 29 relay teams, and at this point in time, they're kind of selected, but it changes through the week, right? When different kids swim times that you weren't expecting them to do, and you've got to move teams around. We have A and B teams in most of the relays, and being able to respect the team of coaches enough that we can have the difficult conversations about who needs to be in a team, who needs to come out of a team, and really respect each other's opinions and come to a consensus going forward. So yeah, I mean, I'm very lucky to have such a big group of coaches with me, and I don't know how coaches do it when they're just one coach or two coaches for the whole week. And I guess Anthony can tell us about that, because I'm very lucky that I have a huge team to share the workload.
Yeah, I was just going to say that Anthony's probably the man to come in there just to have a little bit of a word about how difficult or how you can manage that situation when there's just one of you, or maybe an extra coach as well.
Yeah, it's definitely different. I think Laurel has challenges there, right? She's working with multiple coaches and multiple personalities, so I think that would be difficult for me. So it's just differences, and I think workload before the competition is quite similar. Just especially listening to Laurel there. Like we're going to be going out of office, so it's important that people understand that and they appreciate that the time going in at the competition is it's intense, and they're all, like you said, like long hours, 10-hour days. So that's important. There's been quite a lot of admin on the build up to that, and we have coaches meetings. We have one coaches meeting per month, and sometimes every 2 weeks if we feel we need to. So there's quite a bit of planning around the timetabling, I guess, at this time of the year, and whilst we go away to SNAGS. So that's all done. That's all sorted with the coaches, with the volunteer coaches, and they're incredible. They keep the club running whilst I'm away, so that's superb. And then I think just making sure all swimmers are valued as well. Like, just because you're not going to SNAGS doesn't mean you're not a good swimmer. Like, we value your time as well. So it's really important that everything is in place formally. And everybody feels valued. So that was really important, but it's much the same as Laurel there. I think maybe the workload at the comp is a little bit different. So like, I think communications are really crucial before the competition. And we use our team managers quite a lot. So that's maybe a little bit of a difference, like where if you have a bigger coaching team, you might do a bit more through the coaching team, whereas we use the team managers a lot, and they're awesome. They're really on it. Right down to like booking the pool before the competition. So team managers are crucial. They do a lot of communication. We travel as a team. I actually know that that's a little bit different to most clubs, even though we are a smaller club. So we travel as a team. We go up with a minibus and a car, which is a 7-seater. Probably more so because we come from Dumfries and it's such a long way away. Right? But we do it anyway for Glasgow. I think it's just such a mainstay. It was brought in years ago with Ben and Danielle, and we've kept it going. It's just the kids love it, right? They get so excited for it. So yeah, there's that. And then just another thought I had was just keeping everything the same or as close to possible as previous meets. And like Laurel was saying there, where she's got all the swimmers at districts. We don't want to change too much on race day from what it was. So we have some rules that we stick with. We say no phones once your warm-ups began, and they can't have it back out until the end of the session or until the last swimmer from Dumfries has raced. And then they must stay until the end of the session at meets. That does change a little bit at SNAGS if people have finals and we have the car to get someone away earlier to the hotel. So there is that. But yeah, I think just keeping things as normal as possible. Like once you finish the race, like out, something to eat, bit of feedback, in and swim down. Or if you've got a double, maybe you don't get the feedback, you just get in and swim down, get yourself ready for the next race. And then just a little bit on like the logistics for us in that we have the 2 team managers, which are incredible. I'll have a development coach with me, which will be Owen this year, and we'll run last year, so he'll take a lead on the afternoons, even though I'll still be there, and he can use me where he needs me. But he only needs to do 2 of the mornings. I think he should, for him and his development, he should come to some of the mornings just to see what it's like, and maybe how the interactions with the older swimmers are a little bit different. But I also like understand that he needs that time. If he's going to be there all day, he needs that time to rest, so he will have a few of the mornings off. So maybe a little bit different that way, but yeah, it's good. They're 5 long days, but they're 5 really exciting, good days. Yeah.
I think there's been some really good insight there in terms of how you both manage your days, manage your workload. So, and I think hopefully we might have some coaches listening who either haven't done SNAGS before or who are like feeling daunted by the thought of 5 days and just managing their workload. So, I guess just on the back of what you've both said there, have you got like a top tip or a couple of top tips for our coaches that might help them to maybe manage their expectations or even just manage their days when they're at SNAGS?
Yeah, I actually got a couple. I think what you should definitely do is before the week, have a look at when maybe you've got a few gaps. And that's really important because you can go and take 5-10 minutes, even if it means going out to the cafe and getting a coffee and coming back, right? Just go and take 5-10 minutes off the hot, warm air of poolside. So you can have a look before the competition and see like, okay, maybe we haven't got anybody in the men's 200 breast, for example, and you have that gap there. So I think that's really important. And then, yeah, just knowing what the day looks like ahead of you, right? Like, don't go into the day blind. Like, have a bit of an itinerary, I guess, of what it looks like, where you're going to go with it. Is there a possibility of finals? And if there is, like, how long into that are you gonna stay? Because that might mean you book tea for later, right? Or you make tea later if you're making it at a flat. So yeah, just make sure you know those smaller things, and then I think the rest will fall into place. And there's a coach's room, right? Like, it's nice and cool in there as well. So get yourself there if you need to.
Yeah, I think obviously we're it's similar for us. I mean, we know we're going to be there the whole time, and that we're going to have finals right till the very end. And again, it's about planning and organizing. So we don't do team travel for SNAGS. I mean, we can't. There's too many swimmers, but the coaches stay together. We hire an apartment. And we plan our meals in advance. If we're asked to go out for dinner with other coaches during SNAGS, we say no, because we don't, you go out for dinner and you end up staying up till midnight. And then, to be honest, you can't bring the best energy the next day. So we're closed, warranted coaches only, and I think that really helps us to bring the energy that we need to bring. At the end of the day, we've got 63 athletes, and they've all trained really hard all year. And they need our best energy in order to help them get through the meet. Some of them aren't racing till day 3 or day 4, and they need to get the same input and energy from the coaching team as the swimmers would on day 1. And we're asking the swimmers to do that as well. Like, we talk a lot about the swimmer's responsibility to building the team and building the team ethos, and all of the kids, they'll get honestly fed up of me saying it, but all year I say there's three pillars of respect that we ask our team to abide by, and that's respecting themselves, respecting their teammates, and then respecting the environment that we are working in. And it's really building their understanding that they have a responsibility to make the team better, and that also helps them individually to be better. Yeah. So our motto this year has been "A rising tide lifts all boats." So, the better our base standard, the better everybody's going to be. So, so we're very insular during SNAGS, and kind of come and go as a coaching team, and that's how it is. But it helps us to get through the week and to be the best that we can be.
What are the ways that you look after your own well-being within the 5 competition days of SNAGS, but it's always 6 or 7 days once you factor in travel and things? How do you look after yourself when it can be so intense? And like you say, Anthony, it can be warm, it can be sweaty, it's not always pretty at times, but how do you look after yourself?
Yeah, a massive bottle of water. I feel like everyone will know what I'm on about because I carry that massive pink bottle around, and I'm always photoed with it. So no, honestly, like, jokes aside, like the bottle of water is important. I think you need to keep yourself hydrated if you're in the hot air so much. I think also, like, really good at saying it then as well. Like, just once you've finished for the day and you're winding down, like, just think like, okay, if it's day one, I've still got 4 more days of this, all right? So some of the decisions you make, and we ask the kids to work on this, but some of the decisions you make as a coach on the night times could affect the rest of the days. So I think just making sure you get that chance to wind down, maybe a little bit different for us, just because what we do is we leave poolside and we go with the swimmers for tea, and then we head back to the hotel. But we still get a good hour or so to kind of wind down, a little bit of reflection on the day, not too much, like just try and take your mind off it, and then you can get up the next morning and start thinking about the next day. So yeah, I think also just making sure you're kind of eating throughout the day. You can easily forget to do that, right? And we have a food table where we sit, so it's quite good for me. I could probably get away with forgetting. I come back, I'm like, oh, food, so that's good. But yeah, I think you just, as long as you're keeping just your normal day-to-day habits up, and then I think you'll be okay in the long run.
Yeah, very, very similar here. Water, coffee, and meal planning. So as I said, we plan our meals. That includes our lunches, what we bring to the pool, because I think it's very easy in that hot environment, either when you're at the pool or as soon as you leave the pool. If you've not kind of planned it in advance, it's very easy to make decisions about food and drinks that aren't actually going to help you feel that great at the pool. And it's the same, we're telling the kids to think about these things and think about what impact it can have on them. And it's the same for us. And I think the other thing is that, we're kind of lucky that if someone's really struggling, one of the coaches is really struggling, we can say, go outside for 20 minutes and have a breather and reset. And we've got other people that can support that. And one of the things that is a little bit tricky is that, and I guess it's for the parents that are listening to the podcast, is if you see a coach outside during SNAGS, it's because they need a break. And so, if you choose to kind of approach them or try and have a conversation with them at that time, you might not quite get the response that you're hoping for, because the only reason why we would be outside during the competition is because we need a break from whatever's going on inside. So I know it's very stressful for parents as well, especially if their kids are emotional or not quite, getting the results that they were hoping for. But there's a time and a place for those conversations to happen, and generally the outside breather in the middle of the day is not the time to be having conversations about how the performances are going. So.
Well, and then I guess leading on from that, it's some really useful kind of like information there about how to manage yourselves like at SNAGS in terms of wellbeing. If you bring it around a little bit more to generally about sort of coach wellbeing in terms of been a fair amount of research done. The BSA have just done their big piece of research on coach wellbeing and published the results. And there's a lot of social media kind of promotion of from a Scottish swimming point of view, to build on that and actually to recognise the importance of looking after our coaches and helping them manage the day-to-day expectations and challenges of being a coach. But so I guess a two-part question really: how do you do that on a general day-to-day basis, managing your own well-being and looking after yourself and as the demands of the job of being a coach? But then also, how do you think that we at Scottish Swimming can make sure that that's played out and at the forefront of what we do as part of a wider movement going forward to help and support our coaches?
Well, I guess on a day-to-day basis, I think it's trying to get into good habits. Obviously, coaching is slightly different hours in terms of early mornings and sometimes late evenings, depending on what your schedule looks like. And so I guess it's forming habits. And it took me quite a long time to kind of get to that place where I was able to do it. But, it's kind of setting aside time during the day when you're not working or thinking about work, or getting into good habits in terms of exercising and trying to fit in regular exercise around what can be quite an antisocial, coaching schedule. But we are very lucky in that, we can make up for that with flexibility during the day. And, you know, like one of the things I have to work really hard on is food in the evenings, because like quite often I'll be out of my house from 3 p.m. until 8 p.m. And, you know, if I don't pre-plan food that I have with me that I can eat kind of in between pools or in between sessions, then it gets to 8 o'clock and I'm starving, and then, you know, I make the wrong choices about the food that I'm eating in the evening. So for me, that's like really important. It's just being organized and planning ahead and getting into those good habits. And I guess the second half of your question, it's a little bit difficult because there was obviously a lot of work done post-COVID about competition frameworks, and making competitions more manageable for athletes and coaches. And SNAGS doesn't particularly align with that, because it's okay. It's, you know, I mean, it's hard for the kids. 5 days is a long time. It's a little bit easier for them because it's split age groups, so they either get the morning off or the afternoon off. And of course, I'm in a very lucky position where I've got a big coaching team. But if you're a lone coach, or you've only got 2 coaches, and you literally cannot get through the meet without being at every single session, then that doesn't really align with the framework of priorities that we talked about post-COVID in terms of competitions. I have no idea what the answer is, but, you know, that's kind of my thoughts.
Really good from Laurel there. I think funny, I actually think this is something that I could be a little bit better at. Just myself personally, I think I do a pretty good job at looking out for others. I always try and give people the time to talk, and also know that if they need that like half an hour to talk, I have this quite good gap at 3:30 till 4 before we go on poolside, where I try and tone down my office work. So if someone wants to come in, or someone's had a bad day at school and they want to come in and talk, like they know that time's there and they can come in and chat. And kids have used it this season, as has coaches. So I think that's probably, it's good in terms of helping others there. I think myself, I could do a little bit more in the fitness part of things, but I've started doing that actually recently, which is good. Turn of the year, I had some good decisions made from myself to work on that. But that was just me like understanding how to best utilize my time. Like Laurel says, like the days are different to most jobs, right? Like you can be in at 5:30 in the morning, or in my case, I'll stay till 8 or just after just reflecting on the session. Then I'll go back into the office about midday, and then I'll stay there till about 8 o'clock at night. So the hours are quite long at times, and I'll maybe I can cut them down in certain places, so it's not always as intense as that. But yeah, just I think using that downtime wisely. Some days maybe that does mean just watching a film. Some days maybe it means you go out for a walk. I've recently got a dog, so I'll definitely be doing that quite a lot. So yeah, I think in terms of how Scottish swimming can help that, it's a big question. I don't know if I'm the right person to answer that. I'd certainly, I'd like to see some help just in terms of maybe like how to manage your days as a coach of swimming. Because I know you can manage days and people will talk from other sports, but I think maybe swimming's just a little bit different. Or maybe it's similar to like ice skating, because I know they skate early mornings in Dumfries and then they skate late at night. So I imagine the ice skating coaches are doing something similar. And if they're in good health, maybe they've got a trick or two up their sleeve. So maybe it means touching in with another sport. But yeah, I think there's stuff that can be done. I'm just not sure if I know it all.
I'm not sure anyone knows the answer yet, but
yeah,
I think what's good is that there's a recognition that we need to look into it, and we need to start actually helping coaches, as you say, Auntie, there, maybe learn a bit, actually work ways that will help them. And as coaches, we're really good at planning for sessions, really good at planning for our swimmers, good at planning for our other coaches, but sometimes we're less good at planning for ourselves. And it's important to make that time. And I know, as Laurel said, sometimes it just takes a while to actually get into the rhythm of it and work out what works for you and what you need to do for yourself. So I think some really good suggestions there, and clearly I'm sure there's some coaches listening that'll be taking note and thinking maybe I should go out for a walk, or maybe I should get a dog.
Yeah, definitely lots to reflect on there, and probably lots for us to reflect on at Scottish Swimming. Those conversations have been had before and will continue to go forward as well. Just lastly, while we still have you both, obviously SNAGS is a performance competition, and swimmers like, say, Laurel, have been working towards it all year, and it really is a focus for them. So what are you kind of hoping, both of you, from SNAGS? What are you hoping to see from your swimmers, and maybe what are some of your targets, if you're happy to kind of talk about those as well?
Do you want me to start?
Yeah, go for it.
So it's a little different this year again, in that the British champs are after SNAGS, and we've had to prioritise. Well, no, we haven't. There are athletes that are prioritising British champs, which means that we've had to change what their program looks like at SNAGS, either doing less swims or not doing their main events, or they won't be tapered, rested, kind of ready to fire, because their main priority is the following week at British champs. So that's a bit different from the last few years, where British champs has been first, and then they kind of roll into SNAGS, and it's all good because they just carry on. So that's a little different, and that's something that we are managing with those athletes. But obviously, that aside, SNAGS is always a key target meet for our program. And we obviously, it's twofold. We want each and every swimmer to kind of go there and have a great time, and try and see reap the benefits of what the rewards of what the work they've been putting in. But also, it's a big team competition for us, which I'm sure is what you're alluding to. And having looked at the draft program and the entries, I think obviously Glasgow and Aberdeen and Warrender are all looking pretty strong in terms of the overall team competition, and that's exciting. I look forward to seeing how that plays out, for sure. But yeah, so I think it'll be just a really good week of racing, and I'm just looking forward to seeing the swimmers and seeing them enjoy it, and should be good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I guess just you mentioned there about some prioritisation round about the Aquatic GB Championships the week after. Do you think that'll be the case across clubs and programmes, or do you think there might be some maybe slightly different perspectives on that as well?
I think for all the swimmers that are doing both, there's going to be a priority meet. For most of ours, the priority meet is SNAGS, and then they'll go to British champs for the experience and to see if they can swim any faster off the back of SNAGS. But for some athletes who, might be looking for, European Junior, European Youth Olympic, World Junior type of selections, then their priority is going to be British champs. And you can kind of already see that reflected in the entries in the draft program, depending how closely you've looked at them. But you can see some swimmers that maybe are not doing as many events as you would think that they would do, or they're not doing their main events, or they're only doing a couple of days. And that is really because they are targeting British champs. So it's different. And it's very challenging as well, because for those swimmers, they also have exams. And it's a very stressful period of time. They've got potentially 5 days in at SNAGS. They're back for 4 days, and then in London for 5 to 6 days, and then they get back from London and they have 1 week, if they're lucky, until their first exam. And I think going back to what Kerry said earlier about, have we got this right for the well-being of coaches and athletes? I question whether we've got that right for our exam-aged athletes. And it's something that I've been saying for a number of years, is that it's very stressful and high pressure period of time for them, and we have to manage that. We have to manage their well-being in that area and their welfare, and bear in mind that outside of swimming, they've got other stuff going on that's really important.
Of course. And Anthony, you as well, how are things kind of looking from a Dumfries perspective?
Yeah, so I'll be quite open with our goals. We typically try and go for top 10. Like that's probably a year-on-year goal. We came 8th last year, and I definitely like to see us climb. But that said, like last year we kind of exceeded expectations a little bit. And like if I ever look at the draft program and the projections, we're projected a little bit less in terms of points, but I mean, hopefully they step up again and we can kind of kick that on a little bit. I think another kind of side goal is, because obviously we are a smaller club and we're competing against some pretty big teams, so we try and one of our goals is to be like the best of the non-city, non-composite teams. So we try and we have that in, I guess, the back of our minds. So that's something that we'll try and strive towards. So yeah, I think in terms of team, like there's that. We've got a few relays that, especially on the female side of things, that we think could do pretty well. So it'll be good to see how they go, and they've done plenty of prep for that. And then yeah, I think just like Laurel was speaking about there, with like SNAGS, and then going into the Aquatics GB champs. We've just got a couple of swimmers. There's just 2 swimmers that are doing that. So one of them, that is their priority. So they're just going to do a day at SNAGS just as like, it's just like a race scenario, I guess, day for them. They're just going to do heat final and just get kind of used to that feeling. And then there's another one that I think that she'll swim most of the week at SNAGS, and then the goal is just can you go faster the following week. She has a few less swims at British, so they're quite spread out for her. But yeah, it's a very intense. If you're doing both meets, it's a very, very intense 2-week period, right? Like, you've got 5 days, you've got 4-day break. Even then, you might travel down on the Sunday, so maybe it's just 3 days, and then you're in London for the full week. So I know I'm taking a week leave after this, so I'm sure other people might be as well. But yeah, it's exciting. Like, don't get me wrong, like, it's super exciting. Like, SNAGS, I can say this as an ex-swimmer and say this as a coach, it's one of the most exciting competitions there is, probably in swimming, at least in Britain. It's phenomenal, it's exciting, it's loud, people are passionate. I think a lot of people that travel from outside of Scotland, they know how good it is, they've heard how good it is, so they get excited to come as well. So we're looking forward to it. It should be a great week.
I think that's a nice way to end it. Obviously a busy period and a difficult period, but an exciting period as well. So thank you very much to the both of you. Really appreciate your time, and best of luck for the coming couple of weeks as well.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Some really great insight there from Laurel and Anthony, and I think some really interesting discussion round about coach welfare and wellbeing, as well as looking ahead to the Scottish National Age Group Championships. We hope you enjoyed the episode, and remember that you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and leave a comment on our YouTube channel as well if you listen over there. Thanks very much, and until next time.